can you give me permission to record?
I'm recording it in here. You could just start it. It's already recording. I'll add it as well.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another webinar hosted by Women Empowerment Leadership collaboration with partner with Peace for Asia. You are now live with Zen TV program, Women Empowerment and Leadership in social media as well. Thank you for our audience for watching us live. I would like to welcome Jason, this kind of political figure and founder of the First Figure Fighter Australian Association, and also Munira Yousafzai, former Deputy Minister of Defense in Afghanistan, and also Safura Hilkhani, Director of the Afghan Diaspora from Afghanistan, Shinkai Karukhil, Parliament member of Afghanistan from Kabul province, and former ambassador from Canada. Dr. Cadence Oma, lecturer in University of New England, and also human rights, law, policy, and justice as well. And we have got Patrick Brain, the treasurer from First Fighter Australian Association, and also former manager from Australian Embassy in Kabul. Shakila Zadran, founder of the Read to Lead Afghanistan. Rahila Siddiqui, founder of the director, and Rahila Trust from Afghanistan Education. Thanks for joining us with us, and I would like to pass the floor to wonderful Faria John. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Rita. Hello, everyone, and welcome all. I'm pleased to join you all here in this program today. And I would like to start off the first question to our Australian speakers here. As many people already know that the United States announced its withdrawal from Afghanistan after 20-something years, and due to ongoing violence in Afghanistan, as violence escalated more, many Western countries announced that they're going to take a step away out of Afghanistan or downsize their embassies. Australia was one of the countries that closed down its embassy in Afghanistan about a few weeks ago. I would like to ask Patrick that in his opinion, what does he think of this decision? Was it a good decision? And how does it impact the diplomatic relationship or overall relationship of Afghanistan and Australia? Thank you, Patrick.
Well, thank you for the question, Faria. I have to be careful here. I am not a diplomat, but obviously it's going to have a very serious impact in many ways. And I have raised this in the Australian media. I think, first of all, you know, the loss of the ability to communicate with the Afghan government and with the ministries. And at the present time, with the situation facing our interpreters and embassy staff who are left in Afghanistan, it has very much come home to us that the Australian government's ability to communicate from their remote post in Jordan and also from Canberra with the Ministry of Interior regarding security vetting and clearances for these people has become more difficult, particularly as the ministry is starting to experience problems itself locally. I think also, secondly, and even maybe more importantly, the ability for Australia to work with its beneficiaries, for example, with AusAid, is going to be seriously impacted by the loss of that post. And Afghanistan's need is going to become greater. There's also the aspect of the military relationship, which is always supported through diplomatic relations and I'm very conscious of the fact that we have former Assistant Defence Minister for Afghanistan in the room. So I would possibly ask for comment there, because I don't have a deep knowledge of this area, but it is important. And certainly in the case of having my colleague, Captain Jason Scaines, I think they could give greater insight. And lastly, there's also the loss of consular services, where we are seeing a situation where Afghanistan is going to have a lot of people looking to seek asylum in other countries. And with the loss of those local consular facilities, this is going to become more difficult. So I think those are the key areas that we could discuss.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your answer, Patrick. Dr. Kay, I would like to ask the same question to you. You are someone very active in Australia, worked with a lot of Afghan women, and also worked in Afghanistan. What do you think of this decision? How do you see it? And how do you see the impact of the decision on both sides?
Thank you for your question. And I'm deeply disappointed that the Australian government has withdrawn from Afghanistan. Many human rights advocates in Australia and people that are interested in the development of that relationship are very disappointed. Australia has had a very long relationship and friendship with the Afghan people. And I know that many of my colleagues working in human rights and in the humanitarian sector are very concerned for the people, what will happen next, what may come, God willing, that the Afghan people should face any trauma or future conflict alone. That's very saddening for the people in Australia and sad for the people in the Australian Defence Force too, because I know that many soldiers from the Australian Army and Defence Force, they went to Afghanistan believing the idea that they were helping the Afghan people. And sadly, politics always gets in the way of good intentions. So I think there are a lot of complexities in the discussion, but just to give my personal view, having worked in Afghanistan, I long for the day that we can all sit together in Afghanistan, inshallah, and we can just be free and we can be together to share each other's stories once again. I really miss that. I really miss that. And I hope that the women will be safe. I hope that the men will be safe too, and that the country will return to a time of peace and security for everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Kay. Thank you so much for your answer. Rita, let me kind of finish off this question with you in terms of the impact that it would have on Afghanistan, the impact the decision that Australia made. How would it impact Afghanistan? How would it impact the work, your work, or other Australians' work? And do you think that it send a message to the world at this time, or no?
I have to be honest, it's just when we heard it, Australian embassy got closed down in Afghanistan, it was a very shock news, not just only me, for all my friends as well. How come Australian governments made a certain decision to close the embassy? And especially when we have lots of people working as a guard and also interpreter, and rest of the others without make any future decision for them, they close the embassy. And especially the NGOs, they work in Afghanistan like us, and it's another message was for us as well, are we safe over there or not? And most of us, we try to evacuate from Afghanistan because we feel like it's another message from us, from Australian government, to get out of Afghanistan, Afghanistan will take over by Taliban, which is not true. Afghanistan government has got that strength, that power to stand against of them. But at least if a foreign country like Australia and America can give them that little bit courage, so that would be different. So that was a big impact for my work and also my friend work as well. And also the people, the guards was working in Afghanistan embassy, or the people who were working inside of embassy, they were pretty much disappointed and also feel shocked as well. And still they're looking for a way to keep safe. But I hope Australian government make a decision very soon to keep them somewhere safe, because right now the situation we can see it's going not in the right direction, which is we're thinking, and hopefully some way how this message can go back to Australian authority, can make a decision for those people who's actually worked with Australian government for many years and help especially the troop and day and night, and trying to save them as well, because interpreters are doing a great job in any field. Without of them, I don't think so they would do, anybody can do that, because they're the bridge between two people and explaining what's happening. So basically they're the part of, they're another part of Australian government. They have got an obligation to look after that. Hopefully my friends doing like a day and night, and somebody can hear their voice and then do something about it.
Thank you so much for mentioning that, Rita. Indeed, it is very important at this point. I would like to move on to the question of women right now, the challenges that Afghan women face in Afghanistan concerning the current situation. I would like to ask Parliament member Ms. Shinkai Karokhel. She is one of the people who is currently in Afghanistan, basically witnessing the challenges that women face in Afghanistan. And I want to hear from her, what are those challenges at this very moment, and how can the Western friends like Australia and other countries could help at this point?
Thank you, Sunyata, and thank you for organizing today's meeting. This is our second meeting, and I think even from last meeting till now, the huge changes came in our security situation in Afghanistan. We are highly concerned about what's going on throughout the country. Unfortunately, Australia closed its embassy, but we didn't hear what will be their future stand and support for the people and the government of Afghanistan. While they closed, it was not a good sign and almost was not an ideal news for the people of Afghanistan. Coming to the current situation and challenges. Taliban attack, and of course, when the international community started to withdraw from Afghanistan and without clear stand after the withdrawal, while Biden was announced, well, they were withdrawing, but they didn't put any condition after their withdrawal. He didn't mention about the preserving the achievement. He didn't mention about not to further, this tourist activity is not acceptable for Western countries or for America or for NATO countries. Also did not announce their support for continuous supporting human rights, women's rights, and democracy in Afghanistan. So, of course, very much demoralize our security sector, and also the propaganda which Pakistan intelligence doing throughout the country, and the threat which Taliban giving to everyone in this country, like sharing the night letters and bribing some of this community representative like Malik or other, to how to pressurize the security sector to withdraw, otherwise we will do the worst violence against them and their family. So that's why some of the area were collapsed, and even without fight, they occupied those areas. Nowadays, they control all this border customs, and all the refugees now they are collected. So Afghan government in a terrible critical situation. And even in Pakistan tried to close this or give this two border, the Spimbuldak and the Turkham as well. Even they push their own security posts or find on other side of the border in Turkham, because they just want to like empty this area so the Taliban can easily attack, including some of international tourist group as well. And they're not, the situation is very, very critical for women of Afghanistan. In Badakhshan, in Takhar, in Juzjan, women face the worst violence. Women were publicly beaten, even like they were the burqa fully covered. I say, why you left the house without male company? Even inside the Takhar, inside the clinic, women were beaten, where is your male companion or mahram? And also they warned, like the night letter they distributed in the south east part of Afghanistan, that women should stop working in the offices, and they should like resign. Otherwise, what happened? They are responsible for that. Or in the northern Takhar, also one woman, but she is pregnant, and the wife of one army, and the army is fighting in some other provinces. His pregnant women were forced to marry to Waziristani Talib. Or like some few women, they were doing business between the city and the villages. The poor women were buying some stuff to sort of in a better price and make some profit out of that. 8 women were together, they were killed, and nobody even talk about, not the social media, not the international, and even the human rights organization or UN agency. Nobody is documenting all this stuff. And Taliban easily published like a letter in English. Well, we didn't do it. This is the old videos or this, and warn the people don't share this stuff. And not like create some sort of fear throughout the country. We are in a bad situation. This is what we did not expect, because Taliban were giving like a platform, protocols. The big country like America went for agreement with them. What was behind the scene, we don't know. People of Afghanistan were not consulted. The government was absolutely ignored, and nobody is counting women of Afghanistan. So what happened? Now the Taliban are here. No, they're not even thinking about that, and they think they deserve, and they force international troops to withdraw from Afghanistan, and they win the war, and they deserve to restore Islamic Emirates in Afghanistan. We have the worst experience with them. Girls' schools were closed that time. This time, what some of our international friends say, well, Taliban has changed. Do they really change? Why they burn the schools in their controlled area? Why they close the girls' school in their control area? Why they stop women not to go to offices or working? Why they stone women in their controlled area? Why they destroy the asphalt road? Why after occupying the area, they are like destroying the public property, the offices, the area which they're providing services? This is really harming the entire system and will collapse the government. If the international community just watch this and think this is a normal process, and Taliban, the reality of this country, they can do the extreme violence against the people, and when anything happens, well, this is not their responsibility. Let me tell you what will be the consequences. If they continue this, people of Afghanistan, especially women and youth, would flee the country. The big burden of refugee will just go towards Western country, how they can tolerate or accept, or if they want to reject this the big wave of refugees going to Western country. So that should be like one of the big concern for a Western country, including Australia. Secondly, the narcotics, which is like killing our youth young generation. This narcotic business will be like an increase, because Afghans are not consuming all this opium or this narcotics. And definitely by destabilizing Afghanistan, uncontrolled border, lack of regional countries, and border management, this narcotics will reach different parts of the world, which will kill our young generation. Third is that the power which the extremist group will get it in this region. At the moment, in the north of Afghanistan, this is not only Taliban, this is international tourist group doing the worst violence against Afghan women. That's why forced marriages happen, because some of our local Talib think this is the incentive they can give to the foreign Taliban, which help them, equip them, and fight with them to destroy some part of our properties, to kill our civilian, and including our defense and military. So the incentive they get it, they should marry with young widows and young women of Afghanistan. That's it. This is not justice. This is the violation of human rights. This is a war crime. And the butt shock and surprise for we women of Afghanistan, why the world is still silent, why the world think Pakistan is not behind this proxy war, including Iran. And they think, well, Pakistan will support or help. I think the Pakistan cannot do the worse than what they are doing now. That's why the international community silence will sacrifice Afghanistan, the rights of women, the rights of every Afghan woman who deserve to have a different life. Having extremist group very backward, loyal to Pakistan will destroy the country, will destroy the region, will destroy the world, because they will definitely host all this which close tie which they have with international tourist group. They cannot fight against them, because through their support, they will succeed, including the big establishment of Pakistan intelligence and the army of Pakistan. The day before yesterday, what happened to the young daughter of our ambassador in Islamabad? She was abducted, tortured, beaten, and thrown back to the street after 5 hours. This is the intelligence what they are doing. This is the way they want to show their power, how they want to control our diplomats there. They violate all these international laws, rules, and diplomatic relations. What should stand with the people of Afghanistan, with the women of Afghanistan, as the Pakistan, what they are doing with our diplomats? Many years back, even they kidnapped our ambassador Farahi and sold to Al Qaeda group, and then we had no other option just to pay millions of money and get back our ambassador. This is how Pakistan playing the game, and now even they were not. That was not enough, and they even attacked the 27 years young woman. This is very bad in our tradition, and this is what we are concerned. International community should stand with the government and the women of Afghanistan. Make immediate announce, otherwise we are losing everything. That violence, further violence, violation of human rights and women's torture is not acceptable for international community. Is absolutely violation of human rights and war crime. Taliban should really understand whether they're doing or their support are doing. That's not fair. Secondly, the Afghanistan in a big shortage of money because all these customs are occupied by foreign, by international tourists and Afghan the Taliban, and that's why lack of food staff and fund will really destroy, will create another crisis in this country. So immediate financial and food support for the people of Afghanistan is very much important. At the moment, even the government were obliged to stop all the development work throughout the country. The money which we want to spend on security. So there will be no job, there will be no fund, money or income for the people. I think this is like an urgent or emergency money or fund should be given to Afghanistan and especially Australia, while they close their embassy, at least throw some money to the government to continue some of the development project in Afghanistan. This is with not only to have a development, but also people will be busy and have some daily income to survive. That's very much important. Support, we need the support for some of the non-governmental organization, because this the non-governmental NGOs they bring the agent of transformation or new changes in the society. Support the civil society, support of some of the initiative which promote human rights, women's rights, preserving the achievement in this country, a national dialogue, how to bring coexistence among the people of Afghanistan. That's very much important, a very unconditional support, because we cannot go for the proper mechanism to go to this ministry or that ministry or permission of this. because support the this non-governmental organization. This is also important. The third is supporting our defense and security sector, because we want to keep them their morale up. We should give like assurance that international is still with us. They will announce their support, because not only to keep or stabilize Afghanistan and how to counter international tourism in the region also. International community should maintain their core values, which link to human rights, women's rights, and democracy in this country. This is very much important. And the last, we need international community to make a final decision, put a pressure, extreme pressure on the government of Pakistan to control their establishment, the army interfering, sending their jihadist groups, sending the young unqualified people like the young generation go fighting inside Afghanistan. They're doing publicly fundraising to support the Taliban. That even the army cars are taken to Pakistan are now used by their police, by their military. This is not justice with Afghanistan. What shouldn't watch Pakistan? Whenever they want to do it, they will continue to do it. Need a strong pressure on Pakistan. Stop proxy war in Afghanistan. Even Iran, they are supporting the Taliban, and some of the rockets were fired on the Salma Dam because Iran really didn't want that Salma Dam. This is our water. This is our priority. This is our property, and this is our natural resources. Why you are destroying once again? Sorry, I think I speak so much, and I think maybe I'm too much emotional. I'm really worried and concerned about the safety and security. Every Afghan woman, especially the activists and the politician. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Karukhail, for all the points that you've mentioned. Honestly, I think you have every right, you and other women as well have every right to be emotional, to be angry at this situation. It is a very concerning situation to everyone. So thank you very much for being the voice and bringing up all those concerns. And I do hope that people in charge or in any way able to help should listen to this and be able to offer their help at this point. You've mentioned some very, very important points in terms of what international communities should do and what the withdrawal of countries like Australia and other countries, the US, NATO in general, leaving Afghanistan in a situation without any future plans would impact the defense and as well as other sectors in Afghanistan. I would like to take those questions up with our other speakers, but before that, I think something that's very important is education at this time in Afghanistan. Education for women, for men, for everyone. And as we can see that right now, due to the ongoing violence, the group and basically in rise right now is a group that's against education, especially education of women. And we do have someone here, Rahila Siddiqui, who's the founder and director of Rahila Trust for Afghan Women is Education, someone who's been very active and involved in the educating of educating young women and girls in Afghanistan for a very long time. I would like to hear from her about her work in terms of educating women, and also to see what challenges that women face and how can those challenges be resolved, and as the current situation, how can your work be impacted? Thank you, Ms. Rahila.
Thank you, Sonia Jan. I'm so sorry that my voice is very bad because I'm very ill, unfortunately. But as we all know, education is play a very important role in the set of economics, social, and moral values of any nations. But we know that, unfortunately, the gain that the Afghan women made in the last 2 decades, particularly, including the right to education, is in jeopardy, and this is very sad. I give you one example is that in any area under control of Taliban, the telephone lines are cut so that people, as Shikajan raised in many good examples, unfortunately many sad examples. They cut off the telephone so that the violence is not heard by the people. I know, according to the Guardian, that the area that is under control of Taliban, women cannot go to schools And even a girl in a district of some provinces of Afghanistan who were very, very active media person was told by their parents that please stop working because your life will be in danger. This is like from many, many cases that has been recorded by the media, by international media. But we came a long way to contribute to for the building of our countries and to reclaim our rights as well. And unfortunately, under the Taliban, they insist that the Islamic government should be revealed in any negotiation and sign of agreement. It is not clear to us that what is that Islamic government that they want. Afghan women are practicing Islam under the constitution of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is Islamic Republic government, and people are practicing their religions. That the way that Taliban want Islam is, unfortunately, it is extremism, and we know that the many examples of inhuman actions that they put in place under I'm sorry, under the control of the area under their control is deteriorated, and it is very, how can I say, anyway, yeah, and also, as you said, myself, I am also worried as a woman who have been working as a development expert for many years for women empowerment, and that I am also responsible for provision of higher education to women or disadvantaged women and talented women of the remote areas. I am worried that what will happen tomorrow to them under the Taliban control. I'm sorry that I'm making of my video because I'm not well. So it's a mutual responsibility. It is the responsibility of international community. I mean, everybody here will be agreed that this conflict of Afghanistan is not Afghan's conflict, and this peace is not, unfortunately, the peace that Afghan people wants, and the way that the citizens want the inclusive peace, the just peace, and the peace that people feel free to go to work, to continue their educations, to have freedom of speech and all basic rights. That is what the people of Afghanistan want, and they are not included. And this is not inclusive peace, unfortunately. I would also say that education must be the integral part of the peace building process. The international community, like the steps that the EU Parliament take steps of putting a code of conditional provision of fund on conditional basis, that if there is no in dispute, dispute if the area there are dispute of education, the fund will not be provided in those areas under the control of Taliban or to any government like Taliban, basically. So action like this, I would see really that each country should take steps to have their own policies of improvement of the situation. And it is a story of the world. It is not the story of a country. And in another 50 years or another 2 decades, each decision makers of today will be responsible for the next generations, that what happened and what kind of decisions they made that deteriorated the human rights and took the life of the life of the people. Also, I would say there was I was actually one of the speakers in UN Human Rights Council. Luckily, they also put the promotion of human rights, and if you read the report of Human Rights, UN Human Rights Council, they put in the reports that promotion of human rights in Afghanistan is significant for them in terms of support to development process, if any fundamentalist government come on board. So what I would suggest and what I recommend, I'm not going to repeat, but I would echo some of my great friend Shinkejan's recommendations that the Australian government should really prioritize the critical role that play the rights to education for all, and including the right to education. And they should see that the education has the top priority, because education plays a role in any part of development process. Also, I would suggest that there should be insurance of, let me see my note, that they must ensure for the vital connection between the protections of women's rights and peace and security. That what is the interconnection between the two, and more fund to support the educations for women in a remote area of Afghanistan, for disadvantaged women. And I'm also in the process of negotiation, and I discuss with my great friend who is a very good Shinkejan, very good human rights activist and pragmatic, I would say, that we have to see the change of the policies. If a woman or evacuated or displaced or at home, that they should able still to continue education, and the national community, the fund should be really the focused fund and priority fund should be for education, because if the brain is there and we trust all of us for the protection of the brain, then hopefully tomorrow they can play again a role. But if they are not access to any services such as education, which is very important, then again we are, unfortunately, we blame ourselves tomorrow. Another thing I would say that we have to see the first of all, this agreement needs to be a detailed agreement to ensure the Afghanistan people that this is the peace agreement that the people of Afghanistan want, and it is an inclusive peace agreement. Secondly, the mechanism of monitoring this peace building process really needs to be have given insurance by the international community as well, that this peace mechanism for monitoring of implementation of this peace process, there is a mechanism, and it is watched and monitored step by step, but through a clear mechanism and transparent mechanism that give insurance to the citizen of Afghanistan.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, Ms. Rahila. Thank you.
I have two. I'm sorry, I have two more suggestions, and I echo the support of the women civil society organizations in Afghanistan, and also for Diaspora civil society organization for advocacy and research, because there are so many intellectual, very good organizations with good reputation that they can contribute to the process of development of Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rahila. We really appreciate that you took the time to join us today despite being ill. I do wish you a speedy recovery. Thank you very much for your time. We've heard there's some very, very important points earlier mentioned by Patrick about the Defense Ministry and how and also by Ms. Karokhil, the impact of the withdrawals from the military withdrawal would have on the Defense Ministry. I believe we have Munira Yusufzada, who is the former Deputy Defense Minister of Afghanistan. She's here with us. I want to hear from her about the impact that withdrawal of Australian military and other militaries like US, NATO in general would have on the Defense Ministry of Afghanistan, and what are the challenges currently that the Defense Ministry is facing, and how can it be resolved?
سلام، تشکر از شما و سلام عرض میکنم خدمت مهمانای عزیز خانم کراخیل و خانم صدیقی عزیز ما که بسیار خوب تشریح کردن. و تشکری میکنم از خانم انوری که بحث بسیار خوب و دومین بحث سازماندهی کردن. من میخوایم در ابتدا چالش ها و مشکلات خانم های نظامی در حالتی که اینها وارد اردوی ملی یا پلیس ملی میشن صحبت بکنم. ما نباید فراموش بکنیم که خانمایی که وارد محیط نظامی میشن اونها در حقیقت کسایی هستند که در چند جبهه می جنگن، در چند میدان می جنگن و بعد وارد اردو میشن. متاسفانه به خاطر فرهنگ که در افغانستان به خاطر سالها جنگ به وجود آمده، دیدگاه بسیار منفی نسبت به حضور زنان در سکتور امنیتی وجود داره و این دیدگاه منفی از درون خانه آغاز میشه تا محل کارشان وجود داره. این یک از چالش های جدی هست که هنوز به خانم های نظامی به حیث یک نیروی توانمند در عرصه تامین امنیت افغانستان نگاه نمیشه. با اینکه در قانون اساسی حضور زنان حمایت شده از حضور زنان و اما یک چالش جدی است که بیشتر بحثی هستش که ما بتانیم کارهایی بکنیم که از نظر فرهنگی دیدگاه مردم را تغییر بدیم. بحث بعدی جنگ تبلیغاتی است که دشمن و به خصوص طالبا به حساب حضور زنان داشتن. ما در گفتگوهای صلح میره به وضوح میبینیم که دیدگاه طالبان در مورد حضور زنان هیچ تغییری نکرده. اونا هیچ زنی را نمیخواین، البته ای را در لفافه بیان میکنن، یعنی با بیانی که حضور زن در چوکات دین اسلام باشه، حالا که اونا خودشان قرائت نادرست از دین اسلام دارن و این قرائت نادرست از دین اسلام باعث شد که در سالهایی که اونا حکومت میکردن زنان در خانه محصور بکنن و نگذارن که اونا فعالیت بکنن. با این دیدگاهی که ما میبینیم در جامعه ما و در عین حال با قبولی که خانم‌های نظامی در خط اول جنگ با طالبا قرار دارن و با تروریستا و در عین حال یکی از حامیان یا یکی از نیروهای فعال مبارزه با تروریست محسوب میشن که در کنار مردهای فعالیت پیش میبردن. اما متاسفانه با ای که روز به روز ناامنی زیاد شده، سطح تهدید اونها هم بالا رفته. ما اگر از تهدید فیزیکی که شامل حال تمام متاسفانه در این اواخر شامل حال تمام زنان فعال افغانستان میشه، اگر از او بگذریم، بحث ناامنی های روانی که برای زنان نظامی و به خصوص خانواده هایشان پیش می آید یک بحث بسیار جدی است. در زمان کارم که من در وزارت دفاع داشتم، ایرا میخوایم با بحث یک روایت دردناک بگم که ما خانم هایی را داشتیم که به غیر از شوهرش یا برادرش یا پدرش هیچ کس نمیفهمید اونا نظامی هستن. یعنی اونا حتی گفتن ای که به محل زندگیشان ای را بیان بکنن یا همسایه ها اگر بفهمن اینا نظامی هستن، غیر از اینکه دیدگاه نسبت به اونها تغییر میکنه، تهدید اونها هم بالا میره. خانم هایی که به حیث پیلوت در قوای هوایی ما فعالیت دارن، اونها در سطح تهدید بسیار بالا هستن. خانم‌هایی که کماندو هستن، اونها هم همینطور. در مجموع میتونیم بگیم که چالش‌های امنیتی که شامل خانم‌های نظامی میشه و بعد ناامنی‌های روانی که برای اونها به وجود آمده باعث شده که اونها از خودشان سوال بکنن که بعد از گفتگوهای صلح سرنوشت من زن نظامی چی هست. ما هیچ وقت انکار نمی کنیم که جامعه جهانی با حمایت‌هایشان از خانم‌ها باعث شدن که تعداد زیادی از خانم‌ها انگیزه و امید پیدا بکنن به اینکه در بخش‌های مختلف فعالیت داشته باشن. یکی از بخش‌ها در سکتور امنیتی است. ما خوشبختانه از زمانی که در وزارت دفاع فعالیت می‌کردم، همکاری بسیار خوبی را از طرف سفارت استرالیا در افغانستان داشتیم. اونها در بخش‌های به خصوص حمایت از زنان با ما همکار بودن. اما سوالی که من در بحث قبلی در زوم میتینگی را ارائه کردم که اگر ما به طرف صلح بریم و اگر ما بیایم از این صحبت بکنیم که ما طالبان را به حیث بخشی از واقعیت‌های دردناک افغانستان میپذیریم و با همه جنایت‌هایی که انجام دادن به خاطر مصالح ملی ما اونها را قبول میکنیم که بیاین وارد گفتگو شوند و به بخشی از گفتگوهای سیاسی ما یا به بخشی از فعالیت‌های سیاسی بپردازند در افغانستان. سرنوشت یک خانم نظامی با حضور گروهی به نام طالبان که اونا ادعا دارند که میخواین در بخش‌های مختلف فعالیت داشته باشن چی میشه؟ این سوالی هست که هنوز برای هیچ کدام از ماها واضح نشده. زنانی که قربانی بیشتری را به خاطر بهتر شدن وضعیت امنیتی، به خاطر بهتر شدن وضعیت فرهنگی داشتن. من همیشه از خانم‌های نظامی به حیث ماین پاکایی یاد میکنم که اینها راه برای سایر زنان باز میکنن. اگرچه حضور زنان در سکتور امنیتی مربوط به 20 سال گذشته تنها نمیشه و حضور اونها یک حضور تاریخی هست، اما از نظر کمیتی در 20 سال گذشته و از نظر موثریت در 20 سال گذشته حضور اونها بسیار چشمگیر بوده که ما در رسانه‌های بین‌المللی شاهد این قضاوت هستیم. اگر ما به طرف گفتگوهای صلح بریم، وضعیت زنان چی میشه؟ آیا امنیت روانی اونها، امنیت فیزیکی اونها را ما میتونیم تامین بکنیم در جامعه‌ای که هنوز افکار طالبانی در خانه و خانواده، در کوچه های ما وجود داره، در جامعه‌ای که هنوز نظامی شدن برای یک زن ارزش نیست؟ زنی که لباس مقدس نظامی را میپوشه آینده او چی میشه؟ اینجا یک سوال است که خانم کرخل هم بسیار خوب اشاره کردن. زنان نظامی در پالوی زنانی که در بخش‌های مختلف فعالیت میکنن قربانیان اصلی این جامعه در حال گذار بودن. ما 20 سال پیش فکر میکردیم که افغانستان از وضعیت بدتر به وضعیت خوب و خوبتر پیش میره، حالا که با توجه به تبلیغاتی که وجود داره، با توجه به آن چیزی که ما میبینیم، آن جنایت هایی که طالبان در کندوز تخار انجام دادن، متاسفانه دیدگاه غالبی است که ما وارد وضعیت بدتر میشیم. یعنی اگر ما این را بررسی بکنیم میفهمیم که ما هیچ رشدی نکردیم، حالا که 20 سال پیش جامعه جهانی با هدف بهتر شدن وضعیت، با هدف از بین بردن گروه های تروریستی وارد افغانستان شده. اگر امروز ما به این باور برسیم که ما به وارد وضعیت بدتر میشیم، این واقعا تأسف‌بار است، نه تنها برای دولت افغانستان بلکه برای جامعه جهانی هم هست. بنابراین توقع ما از جامعه جهانی و حالا با کمک ریتا جان که ما وصل شدیم به دوستای استرالیایی ما توقع ای را داریم که روی موضوع تامین امنیت خانم‌های نظامی یک تاکید بیشتر شود و نگذاریم قربانیان صلح زنانی باشند که اونها تانستن در بدترین شرایط فعالیت خودشان انجام بدن. زنان افغانستان بدون شک زنان قهرمان هستند، بدون شک اونها از چالش‌های زیادی عبور کردن، اما یک واقعیت تلخ و دردناکی به نام طالب وجود داره با رویکرد بسیار افراطی و با یک دیدگاه بسیار منفی نسبت به زنان. با این شرایط ما باید دست به دست هم بدیم. جامعه جهانی نباید به دستاوردهای 20 ساله افغانستان به حیث دستاوردهای فقط دولت افغانستان نگاه کنه، بلکه دستاوردهای اونا هم هست، باید روی او توجه بکنن. یک نکته دیگه ای را میخوایم اشاره بکنم. وقتی که از بحث تامین امنیت صحبت میشه، چیزی که در این اواخر از آدرس‌های مختلف اعلان شد که سفارت امریکا در افغانستان میخواد یک تعداد ویزا به خانم‌ها بدن. من فکر میکنم که تا زمانی که روی وضعیت بعدی اونها در عالم مهاجرت فکر نشه، یک مقدار ما درست است که اونها رو براشان از نظر فیزیکی امنیت میدیم، اما چطور ما از این نیروهایی که با پتانسیل بسیار قوی وارد میشن بتونیم به نفع افغانستان استفاده بکنیم؟ حالا مبارزه تنهایی طور نیست که از نزدیک رو در رو باشه، ما میتونیم بخشی از مبارزه ما را از راه دور از طریق کارهای اجتماعی پیش ببریم. بنابراین خوب است که یک پلان بسیار خوبی را داشته باشیم که از نیروهایی که خانم‌های افغان دارن بتونیم نهایت استفاده را داشته باشیم و اینکه اونها را آماده بکنیم برای که در خدمت افغانستان به خاطر توسعه افغانستان باشه. بسیار زیاد تشکر.
بسیار زیاد تشکر منیره جان از وقتتان و از اینکه صحبت‌های زیبایی داشتین. من کوشش میکنم صحبت‌هایی که شما گفتین خلاصه بر دوستان با اینجا translate کنم so انشالله که بخدا مشکل نباشه that we are mistaken نسازم. So I'm just going to quickly translate what Munira said for our English speaker audience. She has some amazing points that she mentioned in terms of the courage that Afghan women have, despite the challenges that they face. Something was very interesting to me that she mentioned. There are women in the defense ministry that they, except for their husband or their father or their brothers, no one else knows that what their job is, just because of all the barriers that they have in the society, in the Afghan society, despite the fact that the law allows women to join the military, work in the military, but the issues, the societal issues that they face, unfortunately enables them. Munira also mentioned about how Australia was very helpful when she was in the defense ministry, and how the defense ministry and other women who worked there received lots of help and trainings from Australia. And what some very important questions that she brought up, and I will keep those questions and ask them from our speakers in terms of what will happen, what is the position, and where do we see women in these peace negotiations? If there has to be peace negotiations, where does women fit, especially women who work in the defense ministry, because these women are women right now that are actually in front line and fighting against the Taliban. And also another point that she had, some countries like the United States of America and also Canada have announced that they have visas for women to basically get women out of Afghanistan, physically have them in somewhere safe. But the very important question here is what will happen to these women once they leave Afghanistan, if they were to leave Afghanistan, what their situation would be. I will bring those questions up again, but I wanted to hear from our last speaker before we come back to everyone else. Safura, who is the director of Afghan Diaspora Affairs in Afghanistan. I want to hear from her about the role that the diaspora play in these situations. How can they help? How would have they been helpful so far? Safura, are you here? Safura Jan Amray Maase?
بله سلام خدمت شما، خدمت دکتر صاحب کنفرانس. تشکر میکنم جناب دکتر صاحب که زمینه را مساعد کردن که بار دوم ما بتانیم. بله
مشکلی هست امروی وایستان که درست من نشنیدم، اگر میشه دوباره ریپیت کنیم.
میشنید؟ صدای ما داریم؟
بله حالا درست است، بفرمایید.
بله
صدایتان میاد، بفرمایید.
سلام خدمت شما جناب دکتر صاحب، وکیل صاحبایی که از پارلمان استرالیا شرکت کردن، جناب وکیل صاحب، همه بزرگایی که در زوم میتینگ اشتراک کردن. تشکر میکنم از جناب دکتر صاحب که زمینه را باز مساعد کردن که ما تانستیم مشکلات زن افغان از این طریق به گوش جامعه جهانی و مشخصا کشور استرالیا که همیشه همکار و یاری رسان مردم افغانستان در بخش‌های مختلف بودن. ما تشکر میکنم. من میخوایم که تکرار کنم صحبت‌های جناب وکیل صاحب کروخی را و جناب یوسف زاده صاحب، همه بزرگوارا در رابطه با مشکلات زنان که زنان افغانستان در حداقل چند وقتی که طالبا حملات زنا شدت گرفتن چقدر مشکلاتی را فرارای از اینا پیش آمده و در جریان از این 20 سالی که جامعه جهانی سرمایه گذاری کردن برای زن افغان زمینه های مساعد کردن که اینا بتانن در تصمیم گیری ها شرکت بکنن و زمینه مساعد شود که زن افغان به عنوان یک زن عرض اندام کنن در همه دنیا، که ما افتخارات بسیار بزرگ را از حضور زنان افغان در سطح جهان داشتیم. اما متاسفانه در این چند سال در این روزهای اخیر که طالبا حملات زنا در افغانستان شدت گرفته، ما متاسفانه شاهد برخوردهای بسیار خشونت آمیز در ولایت تخار و قندوز و بعض ولایت های دیگه مقابل زنان بودیم. نگرانی های زنان را جناب وکیل صاحبنا کروخیل صاحبنا تشریح کردن، تکرار نمیخوایم بکنم. من به عنوان کسی که 2 دوره وکیل بودم و فعلا هم در یک اداره حکومتی در رأس ریاست دیاسپورا کار میکنم، تقاضا دارم از دیاسپورای افغان که شما هستین، جناب دکتر صاحب انوری در رأس هستن و زمینه را مساعد کردن که ما بتانیم وکیل صاحبای پارلمان استرالیا را در رابطه با مشکلات زنای افغانستان اینا را در ملاقات بکنیم یا از طریق زوم میتینگ اینا را صحبت بکنیم، مشکلات زن افغان را با اینا مطرح بکنیم. من پیشنهاد دارم که برای حل مشکلات زن افغان چی باید بکنیم، راههای حل را باید جستجو بکنیم. ما مشکلات ما از طریق رسانه ها هم شنیدیم، فعلا هم جناب وکیل صاحبام تشریح کردن برای حل از این که ما چه قسم راه حل برای از این که زن افغان بتانه از این وضعیت خشونتبار طالبان رهایی پیدا بکنه چی هست. من فکر میکنم که جامعه جهانی تشکر که اینا خواستن 2000 زن افغان در بیرون از افغانستان برای زنا و ویزا بیتن. من فکر میکنم که برای بردن 2000 زن افغان مشکل زن افغان حل نمیشه. مشکل زن افغان باید اساسی حل شود. مشکل زن افغان زنی که در تخار است، او نه سواد داره و نه او در سطح رهبری کار میکنه، اما طالب به زور تجاوز جنسی گروهی بالای از میکنه. متاسفانه ما میخوایم مشکلات زن افغان در مجموع در سطح افغانستان حل شود. جامعه جهانی، کشور استرالیا، خانم که در وکیل پارلمان استرالیا است، به عنوان یک خانم، به عنوان یک زن، مشکلات زن افغان هم از طریق رسانه ها شنیده و هم تشکر میکنم از جناب دکتر صاحب انوری که زمینه را مساعد کردن که از زبان خود زنای افغان که در رأس قرار داره مشکلات زن افغان برای زنا بازگو بکنه. و ما میخوایم از پارلمان استرالیا که به عنوان یک کشوری که همیشه حامی زنای افغانستان و مردم افغانستان بوده، صدای زنای افغانستان به گوش جامعه جهانی برسانه. زن افغان در قندوز و تخار و بامیان و کنر امی لحظه تحت سیطره طالب، تحت خشونت و شکنجه های از جنسی گرفته تا ضرب و شتم قرار داره. متاسفانه دستاوردهای 20 ساله‌ای که زن افغان، جامعه جهانی در رابطه با زن افغان داشته، متاسفانه اگر طالبان خدای نخواسته حاکم شود در افغانستان، این زنای افغانستان است که باید هم قربانی بده. شوهر زن افغان باید شهید شود، بچه زن افغان شهید شود، خود از او تجاوز گروهی شود از طرف طالبا، ازدواج های اجباری شود، همه حقوق و خواسته های زن افغان پامال میشه. در این 20 سال مبارزاتی که از طرف رهبرا و خانم هایی که در رأس قرار داشتن، چی به عنوان دیاسپورا در بیرون از افغانستان، چی در داخل افغانستان، کسایی که بر زن افغان قلم زدن، نوشته کردن، مقاله نوشته کردن، پول مصرف کردن به شکل اشکال مختلف. اما زمانی که اگر خدای نخواسته طالب حاکم شود در افغانستان، حقوق زن افغان پامال شده نیست و زن افغان دیگر توانایی خیستن و صحبت کردن و حضور در اجتماع را نخواهد داشت. فلهذا ما به عنوان یک زن افغان، به عنوان کسی که در رأس قرار دارم و احساس احساس امنیت ندارم، اما ما هیچ حراس ندارم. زنای افغانستان زنای شجاع هستند. ما باید مبارزه بکنیم. با تلاش و مبارزه ما میتونیم حق و حقوق ما را به حمایت جامعه جهانی و کشورهای مثل استرالیا، وکیل صاحبایی که در اونجا حضور دارن و کسایی که مثل جناب دکتر صاحب شماها، دیاسپورای افغان، کسایی که در بیرون از افغانستان هستند، اینا به عنوان حامیای زن افغان در کشورهای مقیمشان، در کشورهایی که اونا در اونجا زندگی میکنه، به عنوان حامیای زن افغان، صدای زن افغان در بیرون از مرزهای افغانستان اینا باید بکشن. اینا باید صدای زن افغانی که فعلا در تخار مورد آزار و اذیت قرار میگیره، اینا در پارلمان‌های کشورهای مقیمشان اینا را صدای زنا را بلند بکنن تا جامعه جهانی متوجه شود که هم از لحاظ حقوق بشری و هم از لحاظ حقوق انسانی و هم از لحاظ ازی که یک زن به عنوان یک انسان مورد خشونت قرار میگیره در افغانستان اینا باید عمل بکنه. ما تقاضا دارم از افغان‌های مقیم خارج، از کسایی که در رأس قرار داره دیاسپورای افغان در بیرون از افغانستان، اینا برای عملی شدن یک طرح، یک راهکار که زن افغان بتونه حداقل به عنوان یک انسان زندگی بکنه، اینا یک راهکار جستجو بکنه. مثلا به طور مثال ما میگم پارلمان استرالیا به همکاری لابیگری افغانای مقیم استرالیا که اینا در پست های بسیار خوب دولتی استرالیا کار میکنه، افغانای ما و شما حداقل فشار بیاره بالای کشورهای مثل پاکستان که اینا همیشه حامی تروریسم، حامی آوردن خشونت در افغانستان متاسفانه است. اینا میتونه که از طریق فشارهای سیاسی بالای کشور ایران، پاکستان و کشورهای منطقه مثل از این کشورهایی که متاسفانه در امور داخلی افغانستان اینا مداخله میکنه، اینا مستقیم در اینجا دخیل باشه. از حقوق بشر جامعه جهانی میخوایم که در این رابطه عملا دست به کار شود. زنای افغانستان فعلا در وضعیت خراب قرار داره. ایجاب میکنه که جامعه جهانی، پارلمان کشورهای دوست افغانستان که همیشه حامی بودن در این رابطه همکار باشه با ما و در این شرایط دشوار زنان افغانستان تنها نگذاره. تشکرش.
تشکر بسیار زیاد خانم صفورا از صحبت هایتان و پوینت های خیلی مهم داشتین. So just to briefly go over what Ms. Safura said, and she mainly the very main point that she had was about requesting Australian Parliament, Australian women, and especially those with a power and a position to raise the voice of Afghan women, raise the voice of local women especially. And I know this has been a very main concern for a lot of other people in Afghanistan. We do have women like Ms. Safura and Ms. Rahila and other women that are able to come here and speak their voices. But a very important point that Ms. Safura pointed out was there are women, for example, in Tahar, in Badakhshan, and other provinces that unfortunately they've been away. They don't have any sort of access or education to be able to communicate, but yet they are under the violence, and they face violence every day by the Taliban. So that's something that she has requested at the international community, and I would like to ask Dr. Kay about her opinion on this and how she and the Australian government and other women are able to help to raise the voice of Afghan women on an international level.
Yes, pardon me. Thank you, sister. I think from the Australian government perspective is that they find it easier to give money to governments, other governments, and that kind of makes them feel they're giving a commitment. But we need more than that, and we know that. We understand that it's easy to give money to governments. The Australian government is still committed to giving millions and millions of dollars to the Afghan government. For example, in the field of law and order, Australia gives close to $100 million over 2015 to 2024 to the Afghan government. And they also pledged to give millions of dollars to help end violence against women up to 2022. And I find that a staggering statement, unbelievable, that the Australian government will pledge and give, $50 million to end violence against women. It looks good on paper, but when we think about that statement, it seems a little crazy to me to say that, because how can you pay $52 million and end violence against women? It doesn't make any sense at all. And so you can begin to understand the problem that humanitarians and human rights people have in this country, trying to make a logical argument to our government, who comes out with statements like giving $52 million to help end violence. If it was that easy, why is there war in Afghanistan? If we can just pay money, why is there war in Afghanistan? It makes no sense at all. So we have to try and find another way to make our governments listen to us. And as women, we have a lot of power. We have our heart. We have our logic and our mind. We have a strong voice here. But let me say this, that sometimes when dealing with our government, it's like talking to children. They just cannot seem to understand what we're saying and what we need. But as Rita knows, we have to just keep pressing them and keep telling what is the real problem here. The problem is that for many, many years, the international community have used the Afghan woman as the reason to go to war instead of the reason to fight for peace. And when we say fight for peace, we should mean to have discussion and talk and communication before there is even war. Because every single war always goes the same way. We go into the country, it gets very messy, a lot of people die. And then at the end of it, we get out, leave the mess, and then we want to talk. It makes no sense. It has to change. And how we make that change is very, very difficult. But I think what our sister Rahila said is very critical. Education. Education is the powerful tool. And I hope, Rahila, you can put the website link to your website to the trust, and that every woman that lives outside of Afghanistan and inside should support our sister and get the education for our sisters in Afghanistan, because when our women are educated, then they have more power. Then they can understand and learn to find a way to better their situation. And they also have to understand the politics and how to navigate a safe pathway through those very complex issues. And I think that the way forward, Rahila is correct in saying it is education. So that's what we can do as women when we go to our Minister of Foreign Affairs and an opposition leader. We can say to them, listen, we know you cannot solve all the problems before you, but you can help, as a woman, you can help other women get an education. That is the best thing you can do for them.
Absolutely.
I'll stop talking now.
Thank you for the amazing points that you mentioned. Honestly, I think you're absolutely right. Education definitely is something that not just Afghans, but the international community really needs to work on. And Ms. Karokhil would like to say something, I believe. If you have anything, Ms. Karokhil, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Sonia Jan. Actually, I don't know who else will be the speaker to continue, but I have a question to raise for our Australian friends. I also, she raised some of the points. Afghanistan needs immediate support and maybe mid and long-term support. Definitely, education is like a key for really development of Afghanistan and also for women's empowerment. If woman is educated, she's empowered, she could deal with everything. But in a current situation is absolutely out of control, very lots of violation, using gun, bullets, torture, attack, rape, or forcing women to marry with the militant. This is, even you are educated, you cannot do that because there is nothing to protect you. So that's why we need immediate support of international community, like what Australia can do at this very critical moment to stand with the women of Afghanistan and with the government. In a worst scenario, which kind of protection and support they can give to the women of Afghanistan. It's a life matter, it's a survival matter, and of course in the long term. And also she said, why is there still like a fight in Afghanistan? Nobody questioned, and the Pakistan control area, which they have madrasa, which they are like announcing holy war against Afghanistan, while they are like recruiting the brainwashed extremists to send them to Afghanistan. Why the Quetta and Peshawar Shura in Pakistan to make a decision to how to destabilize Afghanistan, and Kurma agency or like Urix agency, which are under control of Pakistan. There is headquarters of ISIS. Osama bin Laden were killed near the military compound. This is all the questions. Still, international community intend to be very, very polite and very calm, looking to Pakistan, and Pakistan military and ISIS deeply involved in even the ambassador daughter is kidnapped by them. So even like they make their own government embarrassed that failed to protect the diplomats of Afghanistan in Islamabad. So the question is what Australia can do for long-term, their commitment, empowering women, promoting education, equality, or some of the common values with both country and people and educated and civilized people are really believe on. But in this short moment, how to stand to support with the government of Afghanistan, support our military defense sector, and in a worse scenario, what they can do for women of Afghanistan to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Karukhal, for that question. That's a great question. I would like to hear from Patrick and Dr. Kay and Rita. So if we could just go with the order, Patrick and Dr. Kay and Rita, to see what you have an answer for that question.
Okay, I guess it's my turn to answer Shinkaijan's very detailed question. I think one of the biggest problems facing Afghanistan, in terms of talking about Pakistan and the external influences causing conflict in Afghanistan itself, I think one of the biggest challenges for Afghanistan is to overcome its internal divisions between ethnic factions, and even, let's face it, within the Taliban or the insurgent movement, there are divisions as well. So where you have this complexity internally, and then you have adversarial external influences on a country, there is a really big problem to be solved. So I think back to my younger days when I was climbing mountains, I never climbed a mountain by looking at the whole mountain and thinking that I could get up it, because it was too overwhelming, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I always broke down the climbing of the mountain into small steps and would make a camp somewhere, and then break down it into stages, and had other strategies like a point of safe return if it became too late in the day. And if I can use this as a metaphor for Afghanistan, I would suggest, and not being a woman, but being a human being, if we look at it from that perspective, I think there are opportunities by operating from a simple point of view. And if I could give the example of an exchange that I had with Rita Jan's legal advisor in Eastern Afghanistan, a young man by the name of Didar Safi, who is of great inspiration to me, being part of the youth of Afghanistan, born after 2001 in the Twin Towers. And he wrote to me and he asked me what he could do to build peace in his country. And I was honored to receive this question, because it is a big question. And I think inevitably, and if I can go back to Rahila Jan's wonderful answers, she used the word pragmatism. When I was 19 years old, I remember watching on television the Russian withdrawal from Afghanistan, and then following the news for several years about the Mujahideen wars and the Taliban government and all of these terrible things that happened, and there was much suffering. And in terms of peace, I think if we're pragmatic, it's quite possible that Afghanistan is going to go through a difficult period in the very near future. And some of those atrocious things that happen are regrettably going to be inevitable for the country. I hope the international community will, particularly Australia, will try and prevent this from happening. Like going back to our friend Dida, he said to me, what can we do about peace in Afghanistan or trying to stabilize the country? And I suggested to him that if you were going to be oppressed by a regime like the Taliban, then it's possible to look upon them with hatred because they are oppressing you and they're doing atrocious things. But it's also possible, I think after a period of time, to use non-violent approaches to try and find some common ground with these people if they are taking up government. And those areas can be in education, agriculture, and health, because all human beings need these things. And any young person or any person, no matter where they are, what level of education they have in Afghanistan, if they understand this principle of non-violence and cooperation with your oppressor, then I think in the long term, and that term has been used in this conversation as far as a project, there is a chance to use these simple strategies of cooperation to provide the very simple things that we all need to have a good life in civil society, and use that to turn around the violent, oppressive approach of the Taliban. And I just leave that as a concept to work with, because when you don't have very much to work with except these sorts of non-violent principles, and you don't have a lot of support from previous international donors, I think these may be the only options left available to Afghanistan. And I know the Afghan people to be very resourceful and very resilient. And if only they can find a common narrative and overcome their internal division, then I think there is a possibility for them going to even a government like the Taliban and arguing a case for a softer and more civil approach. So I leave you with those thoughts.
Thank you for that, Patrick. Rahila, yes, go ahead, please.
Just to echo what Kay and also Patrick said, I think we need a very simple, again, I would repeat, practical strategies of highlighting our priority in 3 phases: in short term for emergency, in mid-term for humanitarian support, and in long term for developmental support. And to engage, as Patrick said, the civil society possibility, where we are and what situation and how we can help. This is what we need to really, because the other side, the violence is too fast, the destruction is too fast, and we are too slow. This made me so frustrated that we are human development practitioners and wanted to do something to at least to contribute to the situation that we are, but we are empty-handed and we are handicapped. That is what I would suggest. I would really strongly suggest the Australian government to see that, okay, what can be done through multilateral organizations at Afghanistan level, at diaspora level. I think within development, it says, there is a phrase that it says that you have to go one step front and then 2 steps back. I think the donor community and the international organizations need to analyze, as Kay said, their situation and learn. I'm sorry to say that, but this is the reality. They have to learn from their mistakes. And they have to come back to listen to Afghans. And also, I would suggest, if Kay, kindly you facilitate with Rita John, to bring more of the government, executive body of the Australia government to face us, and so that we advocate our cases and say that we are strong, we can do something, we can make a differences to the level that we are in a challenging situation, as Patrick said. We are resilient, we have managed so many challenging situations in Afghanistan and conflict. Again, I would say that this conflict is not our conflict, but we have to face these challenges. But we need government like Australia, people who do care about the humanity, to contribute in time. What is very important is in time, and to contribute result-based and effectively. That is what I would suggest. And what Patrick said, strategies of highlighting priorities of emergency, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. What is in these 3 scenarios our priority? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rahila John. Rita John, let's come back to you about what can, just like everyone else said, on a short, for example, just at this urgent help that needs to be sent to Afghanistan, how can we open that discussion? How can we get the international community involved? That's the first question that I have for you. And a second question, follow-up, that was something that mentioned by a few of our speakers in terms of what will happen to refugee, and especially refugee women, if they were to be given visas from different countries, and once they go to, for example, Canada or Australia or the United States, what will happen to them? What will their situation be? That's the question I have for you.
For the first question is, we're coming back. It's the best way, like people like us, like Dr. Kay and also Patrick, Jason, trying to getting engaged with the communities, like with media especially, to get the voice out, to get the voice of Afghan women, Afghan children out through to media, international media. We need to put awareness basically to this is what's happening. If the government is not doing that much, international level need to know, because they've got the responsibility. If we remember in 2002, sorry, when Hillary Clinton went to Afghanistan, after that, she traveled back to Geneva and she put a message back there. Women right is human right. Human right is woman right. My question is, Mr. Hillary, where is that human right now in Afghanistan? Can you do something about it? You just offered 2,000 visa for Afghan women, but we have got a rand of 25 million Afghan. We've got a 35 million population of Afghanistan. More than 50% is Afghan women. What about those women? Their life is in risk as well. Has Patrick and also Kay, she mentioned, they gave $1 trillion for Afghanistan to end the war. That's not that easy. The money can, end the violence and war. And actually that will give it more to idea for the people to keep the war, because the money is going to people's pocket, basically. We need to actually keep different strategy to end the war, actually help Afghan women and children. For us and for my good friends, they day and night, till they're working through to media and to organizations. They have got an authority to hear Afghan and children's women's voice. Basically, that's what we can do. We're trying to get our voice back to the Australian Parliament and also back to ministry, to our government can hear the voice of Afghanistan women, and we're trying our best. And the other question is coming back to, can you repeat the second question? I didn't get a note.
Yeah, the second question was what would happen to women once they are given a visa, or if they leave and they go to a different country? What is the process there for them like?
There's two different things. I'm not sure about America or Europe, but in Australia, before they're getting the visa, they're getting all of those criteria ready for them to come to Australia. Basically, we do have a settlement program, but we do have a program for a woman and children's. They not actually leave them in Australia. Like, okay, you're in Australia, there you go. You just, yeah, I think 20 years ago it was different, but now there is more association groups is there, like a Rotary clubs, like Access and Multicultures. They actually stand up and help this refugee, basically. I'm not saying the Afghan refugee, general refugee. But the thing is, right now, the cases, how we get them out of Afghanistan, or those ones in Afghanistan, how we keep them safe. As Rahila Jan, she's doing day and night, she's trying to help Afghan women to get them the well education. As much as women empowerment leadership myself, we're trying to do that as well. But if the situation is not right, they can't get out of the house, and how we can educate them? If they don't have a power to turn on the light, to use the computer for internet, how we get connected with them? That's the question. We need international level to hear our voice, to help Afghan women to bring some change, the strategy between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and also the most things America. If America hears our voice, they actually can help with this good friend, which is Australia. They thought America is a good friend. We're going to Afghanistan, bring a peace, and then we come and build Afghanistan and coming back. But before the peace is coming out, before they build Afghanistan for better, of course they did a good job. But before that finished, they closed the embassy and come back to Australia. And there's a lot of questions there. We need a Australian government, Australian Parliament need to hear this voice of Afghanistan women. And this is only go through to media, through this sort of conference, to hear people have a voice. And in next few days, this program will go live in our Facebook page. I hope my friends, everybody can share it. At least some people can hear it. I'm sure I'm gonna send it to my good friend back to us, Australian Parliament. And Dr. Kay's got a good friend, and Jason is lost 10 years working on this case to get his friend out of Afghanistan. I'm not sure what's Australian is. He's working for 10 years to get a few cases. This is the questions we're getting. We're getting people coming around of the world, but why not Afghan people lives on the risk? They can't get a visa. Why Afghan women can get enough scholarship from Australia? I worked for almost 1.5, 2 years to get only 30 PhD scholarship, but still there's a progress. They've got a lot of questions to get that. But most of the country, they're giving scholarship for Afghanistan. And the money is not solving the war, it's education, and also media need to change a strategy. It's through to media, if we can put this voice through to who got an authority.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for all the points you've mentioned, Rita. Rahila Jan, briefly, if you could mention your point, as if we're running out right now, running out over time.
Yeah, just to echo Rita Jan points, I think there are two levels. There are levels that people, again, I'm talking, what is the practical steps that we can do? One group of people, they are very highly intellectual and they are offered visa either by Australia or France, America, whatever. The other category are the very vulnerable grassroots who nobody knows them. I have organized something, and I know I'm still looking for fun, for those who are grassroots people and they just go beside neighbor countries. When they go to neighbor countries, what they need to be prepared for them in terms of emergency, what they need in terms of humanitarian to use their caliber back there when they are either in Tajikistan or Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan. And then in the long run, in the long term, when they come back to their countries and have their brain to use back to the development process, to contribute to the development process, who can help and how? That was my point. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rahila Jan. Yes, Dr. K, go ahead. I believe you have some points and we'll just end after that.
That's a very good point, Rayella's sister, because I put some contacts in the chat box, and I think academia is a very good place to go aside from just lobbying government, because we have to educate the educators. And in Australia, you know, we are slow. We should have been talking more and getting more people to write and do PhDs and master's programs on Afghanistan. They have lots of information. They have lots of data to do really good research. And I will come back to it again, that education is power, and education in academia, at the highest level, at the PhD level, at the master's level, is so important. Because if we can get those voices, those young academic minds working, they'll come up with strategies for peace in the future. Okay, it doesn't really help the current situation, but you know, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So I think we need to just keep banging on the door to academia and saying, hey, you know, come and write about these stories of women, the lived experiences. Come and look at the history in the making, the suffering of the women, and get that recorded in our historical records. I think it's so important. We did that in Rwanda. We've done that in other countries, you know, where there's been great tragedies. And now we are like the witnesses to history, where what's happening now will be stories that we will tell our grandchildren, inshallah. They will be some positive stories about the courageous acts that Afghan women took when they were going through this terrible, terrible time. And I just want to share one personal thing with you, if I can quickly. I know what it's like to endure torture because I was tortured. I have a very personal experience with that. My husband and I were taken by communists, secret police, and held for almost 1 year in a secret prison camp of political prisoners. So when you look at me and you see an Australian woman and you think, how could you know what we suffer as Afghan women? And I tell you that I do understand, and my heart really feels your pain because I have felt it. I've had terrible time in the prison camp, you know, and I've seen people beaten and tortured and all manner of things, killed, even children. I've been in those places, and I've been in your country. I've been inside your prisons visiting women who were raped. That was their crime. I've talked to them. You know, I've cried with them. I've come back here and I've talked to the government about what I've seen and the stories that the Afghan women have told me. The young girl going to the market, and she was raped, and then she ended up pregnant, and the prosecutor said, you're lucky you didn't get the death penalty. I'll just put you in the jail for 4 years. So I really do understand Afghanistan and the hardships and the struggle. But I also tell you, I've seen courage like no other. Courageous women, courageous fathers, courageous uncles, brothers, sisters. I've seen a young Afghan man get shot in the back, and he's taken to the hospital, and they say to him, you can go to Iran and have a good life. We will give you political asylum. And he said, no, I want to go back to Afghanistan. And I met him, and he was supporting disabled children You know, he can't move from here down, but he's supporting Afghan children who are born with mobility challenges. The courage of that young man, it's in my mind every day and gives me courage. The courage of the young girls going to school when I've seen them in the hospital and they got the burns and they say, tomorrow I want to go back to school. The courage of the old man who's a teacher and he's protecting children, Afghan girls and boys, and saying, I will risk my life so they can have education. If you want to make a Hollywood movie, you have millions of movie stars in Afghanistan. Every single person in Afghanistan is courageous. And inshallah, the more the world will look at them, the more they will see that courage, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kay, for the kind words. Of course, absolutely, you're right. We are actually ending right now. But Patrick has to leave, so we're gonna have him first to say his thanks and goodbye, and then we'll go on with next speakers.
Thank you very much, Faria. Look, I'd just like to say that it's been an absolute honor, I think, as the only male speaker this evening, to be asked to participate in such a powerful meeting of women who are so committed to the causes of Afghanistan and civil society. It's been a great pleasure to be able to contribute something. I've left my contact details in the messages area for you, and if any of you would like to stay in touch, and if I can be of any assistance, please feel free to reach out. I have to go to a live webcast now to advocate for the rights of my former employees at the Australian Embassy, who, thank you, Sister Kay, who are stuck in Afghanistan facing all sorts of terrible dangers, and we are trying to compel the Australian government to be human in their approach to them and at least afford them some protection and then examine resettlement in other countries. So I wish you all very well. I know the future ahead is uncertain, but we are with you. Quite hafiz. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Ms. Karokhil had her hand up. If you would like to say something, go ahead, please. And then Rita John, and then we'll end.
Well, thank you for today's meeting. But like Mr. Pat said that there is a division inside Afghanistan, let me tell you that all those countries which have different interests in Afghanistan nowadays, they're inviting our warlords and politicians, political parties, invite them in as individual. This is really like weakening the central government. For example, the Uzbekistan is inviting somebody else. Moscow, Pakistan had like a meeting for Afghan politicians. India, Iran, but Turkey, they shouldn't invite these warlords or political parties head. That will bring more division. I don't know which kind of promises they're giving to each other. That's the cause of our distraction or like a division. Also, there's multi countries which play not very positive role as in Afghanistan, or maybe they never notice what they're doing inside Afghanistan as well. So as I said, like issue was raised about just what will happen to the women or some, of course, those women were active, they are more at risk than the common women. Of course, common women at risk because she was publicly beaten. That's enough to understand every woman is at big risk. Yeah, if she has no male companion, what she can do? She should sit home and just send the children to buy the grocery, or raping women, or forcing widows to marry with the international tourist group. This is not fair injustice with the women of Afghanistan. A woman from provincial council was captured in Logar province, and then the local elders, they interfere. Well, this is from another province, and they pushed the Taliban to stop to killing her at the first place. That's why she released. She's from provincial council, and she was told that immediately resign as soon as you wish to your host province. So politicians, activists at big risk. In a war scenario, I don't think that they will be able to survive. For Taliban, it's easy to accuse you as a national non-Muslim woman, to declare you as a prostitute, to declare you to this, to that, and to just to stone you publicly. Hopefully nothing happened, the worst what so far we happened to us. Hope our central government doesn't collapse. Hope international community stand with the government and to be the people and Afghanistan women. Otherwise, the way the Taliban behaving around this area which they arrested, I think no woman activist or politician will survive. So this is a big threat and big concern. Hopefully, Australian friends take it seriously, think how they can help and how they can work with other international partners, how they can work with the Security Council of UN, and how to tell Pakistan enough is enough, stop such violence and supporting barbaric group to ruin this country, to ruin what we achieved so far, and to violate the rights of half of the population, which are women of Afghanistan. Thank you, friends from Afghanistan. Thanks, our international friends, Australian friends. Hope you stay safe in your country. And
thank you so much, Ms. Farokhail. Rita, go ahead. I do not have any more questions. I thank all the speakers today. Thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll have you guys on next program. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, everybody. تشکر از همگی از تشریف آوریتان. I just want to pass on the message to Karukhel Saib and also Safura. Can you guys turn off your... the woman is sitting here by name of Dr. Kate. She has done so much for Afghanistan. She worked for over 10 years in Afghanistan province, like one province to another province. Most of the time she walked by her own feet to help Afghan women and children. She traveled to jails, and she traveled to schools, and also she built Afghanistan women jail properly on the standard way of Australia. She's hearing me. She actually wrote up the book about it. Afghan women in the parliament, they need to actually hear her voice as well, what she has done for Afghanistan. زنایی که در پیام بر خانمایی که در افغانستان است برشون برسن که این یک خانم هم در استرالیا ما داریم که تو کارا رو بر افغانستان میکنه بدون از اینکه کدام پیسه کدام چیزی برش داده شده باشه. و از طریق طالبان تقریبا زیادتر از 1 سال چی شده بود، چی میگنش، اسیر شده بود تا امرای شوهرش، یک ملیتری افسر از شوهرش در افغانستان که بود که پس از سالی آمد. She's the courage is actually, I'm doing things. She helped me with everything to introduce me with the Australian government, with the friends. I'm sure she started crying now. It's the tears is coming from joy, from happiness. And she's seeing you, sister. She's feeling like I'm doing something. And I really appreciate Kate. Your tears is worth of diamond. We know you've got a heart for Afghan women, and my heart is with you. Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Khanom Safura, for letting us to do this sort of event and putting our voice out to us late night. And thank you so much for being with us, Khanom Karukhel Saib. Yourself, I know your time is like very valuable for being busy in the parliament, being with us. Thank you so much, Raila Jan. I know you're really sick, and I'm surprised how you're staying for so long. But Kate, my heart is for you. Thank you so much, sister. I really appreciate the time. And Faria Jan, thank you so much for you as well. And this video will be live soon.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. And we also have to mention, thank you so much, Munira Jan. You are here as well. We did not forget you. Thank you for your points that you've brought up here. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Kate.
I was going to say thank you to you, young lady, because you've done an exceptional job tonight.
Thank you.
And can I just say, I wrote it in the chat box, but I'll just say that after I experienced torture and I nearly lost my life on many occasions, and surviving trauma, coming back from that. You know, it was the Afghan women that actually gave me the courage to be courageous and fight for human rights of other people. It was the Afghan women that I met that showed me that you can really have a terrible time in life, but you know, they kept telling me, just keep going, just keep going. And they just are you are such amazing women. Don't ever forget that you are so amazing and that you inspire other people even though you do not know it yourself. So thank you very much, Manana. Fia Manela.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night or day, or I don't know, it's day for me. I think I'm the only Eastern timer here, so it's day for me now. But for the rest of you guys, have a good night. Take care and see you guys next time. I'm going to stop the recording.